Hello, welcome to the module 5 of the unit accessories for the head and the neck. In this module, we will talk about shawls, scarves and stoles. The accessories worn on the human body can also be divided into hard and soft accessories based on the material they are made of. A lot of accessories worn on the upper body like ties, scarves and shawls fall into the category of soft accessories. In this final module of Unit 3 on accessories for the head and the neck, we will look into shawls, scarves and stoles, not just from a fashion perspective, but from a historical and socio-cultural perspective as well. We will distinguish between the three of them and identify various fun ways to fashionably wear them. Shawls, scarves and stoles. While shawls, scarves and stoles and wraps are often discussed in the same breath, they are all different from each other. Shawls and scarves can be worn knotted, pleated, tucked and even pinned. Now let us take a look at what makes each one of them unique. A shawl is a rectangular, square or oblong piece of fabric that is made up of a soft, flowing material. Shawls can be both functional and purely decorative. A shawl can be used for protection, for modesty, and to add volume to one's attire. It can be used to add color, texture, to create emphasis and even rhythm in one's look. A typical shawl is 80 to 110 cm wide and 180 cm to 210 cm long. Stole. Said to have originated from the Roman word stola, a stole is thinner in width compared to a shawl. A stole is usually made up of an expensive material, like silk velvet or fur, for example. It could be used to add grace and glamour to one's look. In the past, fur stoles were worn to protect the wearer from fleas and lice, enticing these to the fur than to the person's hair or body. Stoles also provide warmth. They are meant for covering the shoulders, arms and chest and can be used for a single wrap around the body. Stoles can be purely decorative as well, and they don't always have to be made up of fabric. They could be made up of yarns such as what I'm wearing. This particular stole is also made to look like a necklace. It is made up of a bunch of yarns knotted and wrapped around a handmade pendant. Stoles such as these are purely functional and move over from the category of accessories into jewelry. A typical fabric stole, on the other hand, is about 50 to 70 cm wide to 175 cm to 190 cm long. Long, narrow stoles are also worn over the shoulders by students during graduation ceremony as universities. Stoles can be used for religious purposes too. They can be dyed or embroidered to denote a particular event. For instance, in northern India, orange or red stoles printed or embroidered with the words Jai Mataji is very common. Scarf. Scarves are typically used as head coverings, neckties or as sweat cloths. Scarves were originally worn around the neck or the waist for cleanliness purposes. In this case, it was used as a sweat cloth to wipe away the sweat and grime from the face and neck. They were also worn around the head to keep the hair clean. In periods of wild winter, Scarves are also used to protect the head and the throat from chillness. They can be used to trim hats and bags as well. The size of a typical scarf varies from 10 cm to 40 cm in width and 120 cm to 200 cm in length. Most scarves that are available in the market in India today are available as squares. The last category of soft accessories is a wrap. A wrap is a length of fabric that can be wrapped around the body. It can be a piece of cloth that a woman wears around her waist as a skirt or around her shoulders as a shawl. It could be left unfastened or could be fastened with buttons to create a structured wrap. Now, let us take a look at the historical background of shawls, scarves and stoles. As a single piece of cloth wrapped around the body, shawls have been in use since the ancient times. As a unisex, gender-neutral clothing, the background and history of shawls and scarves is fascinating. Be it the uttariya, that is the upper cloth worn in ancient India, or the fringe shawls of the Assyrians, shawls have been the single most important garment throughout history. While the modern day shawls are either rectangular or oblong, ancient shawls were semicircular too. Shawls used in Persia were not just used as head coverings but also as drapes for the body. The ancient Greeks and Romans incorporated shawls of wool, cotton and linen in many forms in their dressing. The sudarium was worn by famous Roman Emperor Nero. These shawls then morphed into garment forms such as chlamys, toga, stola, etc. As time passed by and the Christian idea of the body being sinful came into being, and therefore it was covered using shawls and cover-ups. These became an integral part of everyday dressing. Both in the Christian and Islamic world, scarves, stoles and shawls were used for modesty and for respect. Decorative lace shawls seem to have come into fashion in the early 1800s. The shape also changed from rectangular to circular and triangle. Crocheters and knitters started to make intricate shawls as a result. Chantilly lace shawls became very popular. By the reign of Louis XIV, the neck scarf was a staple of the French court. They were named cravats after the Croats had introduced them. We discussed this in the module on neckties. In Victorian England, neck scarves and cravats became a status symbol, with the material and even the knot of the neckwear indicating your social status. Knitting chunky scarves and socks was considered as a patriotic duty during the World War I. These could be sent as supplies to the soldiers at the war front. Pilots would also wear white silk scarves whilst flying, as the soft, supple fabric provided protection from neck chafing. During the World War II, women working in factories wore scarves as headbands to keep their hair from falling onto their face while working. Propaganda scarves came into being during this period. When Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly wore Hermes scarves in movies, scarves became a glamour accessory. Exotic stoles and shawls were used and shown as cover-ups in Hollywood movies when the heroines wore bikinis or even evening wear dresses. while the remainder of the 20th century saw scarves and stoles as a chic accessory in the Western formal market, it slowly declined in popularity. However, in the last decade, it has once again found its way to the top of the must-have designer accessories list, mainly owing to its affordability and wearability. Isn't it easier and much more cheaper to own a scarf of your favorite designer than, say, a trench coat, a sport coat, or an evening dress? In India, the once everyday must-have uttariya still exists as the quintessential dupatta, though it has moved away from its position as everyday wear. The more ornate versions still hold a place of pride in formal and celebratory occasions. Now, many of you must have seen or heard of this motif called Paisley, referred to as mango or manga butta in India. Paisley is one of the most recognized motifs throughout the world. So, do you know fun facts about the Paisley shawl? Did you know that the word butta, now used to describe any small motifs in India, comes from the Persian word bhote, which refers to a shrub or collection of leaves. The carving teardrop symbol was decorated with a combination of floral elements and cypress trees, with the bhote encasing them like a bud. This motif, along with almost calligraphic looking prints, were major influencers of the fabric industry in India during the Mughal period. And as they say, the rest is history. Now, I invite you all to take a deeper look into the contribution of the West, mainly the British, in the evolution of the famous Kashmiri shawl. The English word shawl is derived from the Urdu word shawl, which referred to a long piece of fabric worn by men for warmth and comfort during the Mughal period. Also referred to as param narm, that is, extremely soft, by Emperor Akbar, these shawls were known for their softness. Mughal noblemen wearing Kashmiri shawls were portrayed in Hindi movies such as Mughal-e-Azam, Jodha Akbar and Shatranj Ki Khiladi. Indian shawls caught the fancy of the British East India Company. Soon, these exotic double-sided shawls with ornate patterns became the it accessory in Britain. In the later 1700s, women's dress in the West was influenced by old Greek and Roman styles, and they were made up of layers of thin fabrics. These were complemented by draped shawls that not only provided warmth but also modest dressing. European customers gradually started to prefer more and more complicated patterns on their shawls. Therefore, in Kashmir, to speed up the manufacturing process, the patchwork shawl was invented. Woven pieces of fabric from several looms were joined together to make one shawl. In the middle of all this, Joseph Marie Jacquard discovered the Jacquard loom that turned the shawl industry on its head. Patronized by Empress Josephine Bonaparte, the shawl industry flourished in the West. Though the British production of woven shawls began in 1790 in Norwich, it was only established in 1805 in Paisley, Scotland to a great extent. It is interesting to note that some of the first few copyrights ever issued were for Paisley designs, and these copyrights date back to the 1840s. Initially, the British shawls were only two colors, usually indigo and madder, but in the course of time started to match the Kashmiri shawl with many more colors. When Romanticism was at its peak, fashion dictated that the shoulders of a woman must be left uncovered by dresses. Hence, the embroidered Manila shawls that were made in Canton became popular as these provided warmth while wearing the bare shoulder dress. But however, these did not reduce the popularity of Kashmiri shawls. The popularity of Indian shawls among the upper class led to cheaper copies being made and sold. The firm J&J Homes of London offered a wide range of designs in a variety of prices, from 1 guinea to 100 guineas for a shawl. Efforts by manufacturers to create still cheaper shawls meant that they could be worn by almost everybody. The working class women and even the very poor women wore second-hand or even coarse woolen shawls. Almost a century later, in the 1960s, the Paisley shawls became the toast of the town, with bands such as the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and the Kings wearing them. The Paisley design became associated with rebellion. It was a statement of non-conformity, a welcome alternative to the preceding sober mod fashion trends. Paisley today has become a classic motif and has moved on from shawls to yardage to even cell phone covers and computer wallpapers. It would be interesting to wait and watch what the future holds for the Paisley shawl. Now that we have seen an interesting history, background and evolution of shawls, we need to ask ourselves this question: why are shawls or scarves worn in the first place? Shawls have been worn for modesty, protection, respect, political or religious affiliation, and then finally fashion. Historically, shawls were functional layering garments worn for warmth and in many cultures to preserve modesty. They are typically used for covering the head, chest and shoulders. Religious women wear headscarves for modesty, while some others wear it to preserve their hairstyle. In India, dupattas and davani, that is the half sari, or chunni is worn by women to cover the breast. Additionally, dupattas may be worn on the head by women as head coverings or veils during wedding ceremonies. The Indian sherwani set for men also typically comes with an ornate or a contrasting color shawl. Shawls are symbols of respect. Shawls are gifted to dignitaries during official functions as a mark of respect and honor. Referred to as ponnade in Tamil, which literally means golden cloth, shawls are symbolic of the body covering of gold that is worthy of the guest of honor. In Carnatic or Hindustani music concerts, male artists often wear a shawl on their shoulders while performing. They wear it around their shoulders or wrapped around their throat to keep warm while performing in winter. During other times, the shawl is wrapped around their lower body or it covers their feet. This is to make sure that while sitting down, their toes pointing towards the audience are covered as a mark of respect. A scarf or a shawl can also be a political statement and can denote a wearer's affiliations or beliefs. Shawls in India denote political or religious affiliation too. Typically, an orange shawl or a purple shawl is used to hint at religious affiliations. A shawl or a stole could be worn draped on both shoulders or on one shoulder in the color of the political party's flag, or it could be embroidered or printed with a party's symbol. The symbolic changing of shawls means that a person has switched political parties and hence political affiliations. Printed scarves are also worn as bandanas on the head during rallies and political conventions. However, this isn't unique to India, nor is it a new phenomenon. During the World War II, scarves expressed nationalist sentiments. The British firm Jackma produced designs with propaganda-themed slogans, such as a wall covered with posters urging citizens to lend to defend and save for victory. While discussing scarves and stoles, there is one word that we cannot miss. That is the ever beautiful, interesting and intriguing pashmina. So what is pashmina? The word pashmina is said to have originated from the Persian word pashm, which means wool. Pashmina refers to the Kashmir wool that was reportedly introduced by Mir Syed Ali Hamadani, a Persian poet to the king of Kashmir in the 14th century AD. The Kashmir wool is produced from the undercoat hair of the goat, Capra hercius laniger. It is said to be so delicate that it has to be hand-spun and hand-woven, and thereby takes a lot of time to be processed and converted into a pashmina shawl. However, with a growing demand in the market, Kashmir is now made on power looms. While silk pashmina has become a commonly accepted blend, there are those of viscose, polyester and nylon blends that are flooding the market. Available at extremely low price points, these might pass for shawls, but they can never be regarded as pashmina shawls. It would be prudent to check the blend, the kind of yarn used, and its softness and suppleness before buying a pashmina shawl. Also note that buying and selling of pashmina shawls, that is pure pashmina shawls, within India is banned. Designer scarves, stoles and shawls. A majority of fashion brands today create and sell their own lines of scarves, shawls and stoles. Of these, the foremost are Emilio Pucci, Hermes, Burberry, Chanel and Prada. Since 1937, the French fashion house Hermes has been creating and selling Chinese silk scarves with equestrian prints. In addition to their trademark hand-rolled square scarves, their twillies, which are long and narrow with multicolour prints, are fashion must-haves. The tartan scarves of Burberry made wearable luxury accessible to the fashion forward. They could wear Burberry without having to spend a fortune on their trench coat. Pucci scarves with their multicolored, eclectic prints, Prada's chunky knit stoles and silk bandanas, and Chanel's bold chain prints offer a variety of aesthetics to suit the growing needs of the fashion industry. When in doubt regarding a soft accessories to invest in, look no further than a scarf, a shawl, or a stole. Shawl drapes. We have seen so far the history and the evolution of a versatile garment, that is the shawl. It's a simple single piece of cloth that can be worn in different ways for a range of purposes. It can be worn as a wrap around the body, as a headscarf, as a sarong, or even as a top. I will now demonstrate different ways in which you can wear a shawl. A scarf is a versatile garment. With only a few scarves, you can create a variety of looks even when you own only basic garments. Imagine that you are going on a vacation, a backpacking vacation where you chose to cover a lot of places in your itinerary. You cannot afford to pack for all of them. Even when you're planning to carry only a couple of pairs of jeans and a few t-shirts, carefully chosen scarves can take you from anywhere from a beach party to a rocking disco at a high-end club. If you happen to meet potential investors in your business on the way, well, you're prepared for that too. In this section of this module, I'm going to be showing you many different ways in which you can wear your scarves. Now, before we move on, I'm going to be first telling you what are the kind of scarves that you should definitely have. Though I recommend woven scarves more than knitted scarves, if you live in a cold area or planning to visit a cold area, I recommend bulky knitted or crocheted scarves. These will help you keep warm and enable you to add texture and grace to your outfit. For every other situation, I recommend that you have multiple silk scarves like the one that I'm wearing now. You have a variety of silk scarves available in the market. You have pure Indian silk scarves. You have Indonesian batik. You have a variety of pashmina where the wool is mixed with silk. You also have Thai silk scarves or Cambodian silk scarves. You can also choose to own cheaper options in polyester such as chiffon or georgette made up of polyester to add to your wardrobe when you're simply beginning to experiment. Once you're comfortable with your scarves, you can move on to purchasing higher end, more expensive, even designer quality scarves. Now, let me show you different ways in which you can manipulate a simple scarf to come up with the looks. The one that I'm wearing right now is called as a pussy bow, and it's one of the classic scarf drapes that is used in formal attire. Typically, how do you wear a scarf, a stole, or a dupatta? Like this, or like this, or worse, like this. Maybe if you're feeling particularly fashionable, you might wear it like this. But these are all extremely boring options. When you want to be known as a fashionista, you have to start looking at other ways of expressing yourself. Here are a few different drapes that you can do with your basic scarf. Conclusion. To summarize, a shawl is a rectangle, square, semicircular, or a triangular piece of fabric that is made up of a soft, flowing material. As it is made up of a single piece of cloth, it can be draped in a variety of ways. Scarves, stoles, and shawls are versatile in nature. They can be typically worn for protection or used as symbols of modesty. They are a sign of respect and undoubtedly a fashion symbol. They can be used to showcase religious or political affiliations. Shawls can be made of wool, silk, linen, or a blend of fibers. Pashmina shawls are prized for their softness, their sheen, and their warmth. They can be folded into a little square and tucked away into your pocket or the corner of your purse. Shawls and scarves can be worn knotted, pleated, tucked, or pinned. They can be used to trim hats and even bags. Hermes, Emilio Pucci, Prada, Chanel, and Burberry are noteworthy brands and designers of scarves and shawls. With this, we come to the end of Module 5 of the Unit 3. In this module, we have deliberated on the topic of shawls, scarves, and stoles. With this, we come to the end of Unit 3. In the next unit, we will discuss accessories that are worn on the body, such as belts, bags, and footwear.